Welcome back to another episode of the Randy Wilson Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilson, and this is Virginia's podcast for the culture, from the culture, bringing you another exciting episode today as we round out our series in talking with all mayor candidates here in the city of Richmond. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of talking with Maurice Neblett, who is a candidate here for mayor in the city of Richmond. But before we do that, we want to make sure we thank you guys for continuing to follow and subscribe to the show. Continuing to support the platform, and we've obviously gained a lot of new followers through this process who've really tapped in due to the interest of this mayoral run. So thank you guys for staying engaged with the show. You can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are played, but I'm going to encourage you to go over to YouTube if you're listening on a audio platform, because then you'll get a chance to see the brother today who is sitting with me on set. Again, this is Randy Wilson Podcast. Mr. Neblett, it is a pleasure to have you on the show today with us, sir.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Wilson. I appreciate it.
You've been busy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Extremely, productively busy.
Yeah, very busy. It's been we still got another, how many days is it until election?
So we under 50 days.
Yes.
It seems like the days are blending for me right now.
Yeah.
But, election day is November 5th. We do have early voting from September 20th up to November 2nd. Mm-hmm. So it's, individuals can go in and vote from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm. As we were talking before the show, on the first day of early voting, you mentioned that there was about 700 and some individuals out there that day who casted their vote early, and they got a opportunity, obviously, to meet you then at the polls. Were you moving to different polls, or were you at a specific poll?
So I was at the registrar's office, 2134 South Laburnum Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they have it for early voting this year. Typically, I could have sworn they had it at the City Hall as well, but unfortunately, the City Hall early voting station isn't open.
Mm-hmm.
Richmond has the least early voting stations open than our regional partners.
Interesting. We might need to get into that. That's a whole nother conversation in itself.
Yes, sir.
I wonder why, or should we wonder why?
Right.
Is this a issue? Do you have a thought on that?
Well, the thing is, we want to have, many accessible voting stations as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the greater influx of individuals we have in the city as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at over 200, maybe 240,000 people in the city.
Eligible to vote.
Eligible to vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm looking forward to getting into this interview. It's been exciting to kind of observe and witness kind of the journey up to this point. Before I do, though, I've had some change in thought. As I was sharing with you before this interview, this has been a learning process. Also, not only for me, but the listeners as well as the city of Richmond, and getting more acclimated and familiar with the candidates. And I want to make a public apology, because I've been rather public from my personal perspective on behalf of wondering why it was that you chose to push through all the way. And the reason why I say that, and that's when I say push through in your campaigning for mayor, because from an optics standpoint, one could say that the chances are not strong. And I have, I think the way that I've been looking at this is that a person who gets into this race is getting into the race for maybe a few. There's a lot of reasons, but one thing for sure in my mind is winning. And I'm not here to imply that you're not, but I've learned through this process that the purpose and message in regard to why you're getting involved is deeper for you than just winning. And, I've been rather public in saying that, and as I say this to you, I want to be clear to the audience that this doesn't mean any different maybe for some other candidates either. I mean, there are other candidates, the chances, if you're looking at optics, and I'm coming from an optics standpoint, the optics say that there's two candidates who maybe have stronger chances than others. And then there's, the middle, And then there's the lower middle to the end, right? I mean, there's only 5 candidates here.
Right.
So I'm coming completely from an optics standpoint. But, I don't want this to, as I'm talking to Maurice, but this could also apply to other people. We've seen this in the presidential race with Joe Biden. Joe Biden chose to step aside because optics were looking like, hey, chances are not as likely. It may be better for the party for you to decide. And in some situations, we've seen it in a lot of different political campaigns, where whether it's a politically etiquette, if it's an etiquette thing, or it's a politically appropriate thing to do, or if it's party appropriate, but in my situation, because the mayor race doesn't have to do a party, cool. I was looking at it completely from the standpoint of saying, you've built a name, you've established your name in more eyes because of this platform. It's obviously strengthening your resume because that comes with the territory. You have a following. You've got a base of people who support you. And my perception is, why not leverage it? That's what my perception was. Why not leverage it? Why not? Because you could position yourself for possibly other opportunities to lead. But, through further thought and other conversations I've had with other people, I've learned that, you're entitled, Randy, to have that perspective, and my perspective has changed, but you're entitled to have that perspective.
Absolutely.
But anyone who's done the work to get their name on the ballot, and anyone who feels that they have a purpose to lead, I'm going to say minister, fellowship, in whatever capacity they want to, if they've done the work, they're entitled to doing it. And because of that, I've kind of changed my viewpoint in that. Like, I want to apologize to you because I need to hear it out. We need to hear it out. There's a reason, purpose in regard to why you are continuing to do this race, do this work. And we're interested to learn about that. But again, I want to apologize just because I've changed my thought. I don't think it was fair. I don't think it was fair for me to just say, hey, why don't you leverage this situation for the benefit of your own personal good? It seems like you're still committed to getting your word out to the citizens of the Richmond community on behalf of why they should vote for you, and because of listening to things that you have to say that maybe the other candidates don't have as a part of their agenda. So that's my piece, and I wanted to make that a public statement.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm really into ensuring that everyone has a voice, and I appreciate you still initially providing your voice, and also giving under consideration my purpose and the principalities that's there that I had to go through the same qualifications that every other candidate has as well. And I appreciate you giving some reconsideration on what your viewpoint was, and that's just being impartial. That's being fair. That shows that you have the ability to be fair, and being objective. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem. If you don't mind, let's just start in talking about what it is what do you see as your purpose in regard to what is your purpose and your platform's purpose in this mayoral race in regard to the message that you're trying to ensure that Richmonders hear?
So first off, I'm from the people, for the people, by the people. In the city of Richmond. I live in each corner of the city of Richmond. My platform is financial accountability, public safety, and education. So with my platform being that well before the election began, that should tell you. You see a lot of candidates, they try to revamp their platform, and you start hearing them speak more about transparency and accountability now. With someone that me being a newcomer, when some people talk about experience, you got to look at it to say, well, since the beginning, who's been talking about what? I place a lot on the forefront, when it comes to this election, when it comes to transparency and accountability. And that's part of because I'm a community organizer. I'm a community resource manager. I'm an advocate in the community, and I've been doing it for years. I've been over 15 years. Even with me being 35 years old, I started early. I started early because I understood that, all it takes sometimes is people just receive just a little help, and they'll take them far. So I'm on the board of directors of a federal credit union. Also, so I have the fiscal responsibility and education.
Which credit? The federal? Which credit?
A local federal credit union.
What's it
as
called?
well. So we met at the Richmond Heritage Federal Credit Union.
The first black credit union, correct?
Yes, and it was.
I'm familiar with that. I've learned about that through Antoine Green and the brother over there that he owns the pig
Pig and Brew.
Pig and Brew.
So Consolidated Bank was a precursor to it. You know, and Miguel Walker helped support and fund this one. This one was the first one formed by teachers.
Okay.
First, black teachers to help them with that economic growth as well. So that's over there. It is doing great. We're making improvements and catering towards our members.
That's good
as well.
That's good. You mentioned something just now, and one thing I want to make sure I share with you that I've also shared with the other candidates. In these forums, you guys have like 30, 60, 90 seconds, maybe. I don't know.
Listen,
it's limited.
It's very limited. I mean, 30 seconds, man, it was insane. So we get 30 seconds, man, trying to squeeze it in, you know, and then trying not to speak too fast, but not speak too slow.
You can talk.
Thank you.
You can talk because we want to listen.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are gonna let you. We want you to get your full thoughts out, and because we don't feel like every platform has been able to provide that opportunity. You mentioned something just now that has been rather public. Actually, I have heard through people that that on the platform, at a forum, one of the forum events, that you've actually been questioned about publicly about what kind of experience that would contribute to you being mayor. And actually in the spaces that I've heard that feedback, it's kind of been frowned upon. There's been people that have said that, I don't know if that was, I don't know. I think that has maybe let me ask you, was that question asked to you by a facilitator, or did it come to you from other individuals on the stage?
So yeah, it came from a candidate directly that questioned my qualification or questioned the purpose of me even being there on the stage.
What prompted that question?
So the moderator, Alexis Rogers, prompted a question saying, "Hey, we give the candidates the opportunity to ask any question to the other candidate."
Okay.
So that was like we got 5 people up there. So it's like, who are you going to choose, and what are you going to ask, right? So for a question like that to be asked to someone who met the qualifications the same as all other candidates. Yeah. One of 4 individuals and we're not just looking at education, but I'm one of the 4 individuals who has a college degree. The individual who asked me doesn't. And look, granted, it doesn't be the qualification barrier that you have to have it. Yeah. But it's just like, what made you really ask me, how do I qualify when we know what the qualifications are? I qualify. And that's why I'm on the ballot. I'm not a felon, never been. I haven't, and that doesn't, take anything from any individuals who have, turned their lives around. Yeah. But I've never been to prison, know. So the thing is, like, what was the whole purpose of asking Maurice Neblett? How do you qualify when it's evident that I qualify? Yeah. Went through the rigorous filters, that everyone else has.
Is that how you answered the question?
So, pretty much, I answered the question, stating some of my experiences, in regards to me having fiscal background, being a board of director, member at the Federal Credit Union. Also, I mentioned the aspect of me being a serial entrepreneur, and also that I'm a graduate from Virginia Union University with a background in criminology and criminal justice. I covered the basis of showing that, I have the skill sets of doing it. I have the characteristics of doing it. And I also mentioned, the thing is, the reality is no one has the experience of mayor because no one has been mayor. Yeah. So it's time to not try to create these illusions, to the people. It's trickery. And it's shameful because it's almost deceitful because you want to bring up false smoke,
Individuals that you meet out in the community when you're going door to door, talking to people, shaking hands, the people that resonate with you that have verbally told you that they're planning to cast their vote with you, What are the reasons in regard to why they support you?
So that has been a lot of door knocking at the beginning of the year. I had to start early in January because I understood the rarity.
Yeah.
And I understood, when I came out and I called it my debut, that I wanted to come out not expected, for many reasons. But connecting with, the constituents in the community, some people tell me, they say, hey, Maurice, if you weren't in this race, I was going to vote the other way. And I was like,
what is the other way?
They weren't going to vote and support, someone who looks like them, essentially, because I wanted to know more, and they were saying, like, you got to look at character, integrity, and the history here in Richmond. A lot of people feel like they haven't forgotten the things that has happened here in Richmond.
Let's back that up real quick. So you said, I need to make sure y'all hear this, okay? You said that when you were out there, certain people said that they were gonna vote the other way. Y'all hear that? Now they're because of people who look like us.
Yes, sir.
So basically, am I hearing you say that there's something about you and your candidacy that connect with black voters that may not connect with Ms. Mosby's constituents?
That's what it seemed. That's what it appeared to be.
We asked straight up questions.
Yeah. And I was kind of thrown off myself.
Yeah.
But with understanding, Richmond. I'm from Richmond. I understand. I've heard, seen things on the news. But the thing is that they really was very adamant about it, and I had to ask why.
Does race? I mean, to what degree do you feel race plays a factor for black people when it comes to voting? I mean, I want your perspective. I mean, obviously we're both black. Been black my whole life, if y'all can't tell. But I mean, I think race plays. I can start by saying I think race plays a factor in all things. I don't think that. I think that we can portray and pretend like color don't matter, and I'm not saying that it has to matter or that it does matter. What I'm saying is that you see it.
Right.
You can't avoid not seeing it. When you see me, or when a person sees you, they see a person of color. They see it. You can't. What you think? What else do you see? But I guess my question is, when you're talking to a candidate, or what's your view from a candidate standpoint, particularly because of you getting that kind of feedback, what do you think? Do you think race matters or plays a factor with a constituent base when it comes to their decision to vote?
So, not necessarily. But what I will say is it does, being that it's a neutral stimulus. When I see you, your phenotype, right? When I see you, your color and your shapes and characteristics, you automatically resonate with your experiences. So I think it's a subconscious thing to say, okay, I initially see that you are, we are ethnically the same, but I believe it's the culture, it's the living, the challenges, it's the struggle that they automatically think of, but just latently say, you would say that it could be the race. But I believe that it's just when they see that you look like them, they automatically think about the things they've been through. They automatically think about the challenges they face on a daily basis. So I don't necessarily think it's just based on, being, black or African American. I just think that's the precursor to it. It's a neutral stimulus.
Yeah.
And it just triggers them to think about everything that they assume that you are related.
Yeah.
And on a daily basis, if that makes sense.
What's the climate like when you're in these forums? And a lot of questions I'm asking you, I'll ask other candidates as well, particularly this question. What's the climate like amongst your peers? Like, is there camaraderie? Do you feel like you guys are building good relationships? Harrison Roday actually spoke very positively on he said a lot of times you and him sit together or sit beside each other, and he spoke very positive about you and your candidacy. What do you feel the climate's like right now?
Well, right now, you have some candidates that's, a little standoffish, but we pretty much still is like it's almost like a family,
Yeah.
You have some cousins, you got some brothers, and a sister.
Yeah.
And, the dynamic since the beginning of the election, though, I broke the ice. I wanted to make sure I connect with individuals.
Were you the first one on the ballot?
January I submitted my paperwork in January, and I think it could have been like January 20th, 29th.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hear is that Miss Mosby
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
the first on the ballot, but I
Mm-hmm.
submitted my paperwork in January.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at the ballot, I am the third or fourth.
Okay.
And I believe that Addison's below me. So
Okay.
it's supposed to go in the order that the petitions are submitted.
Okay.
And in completion. So
Okay.
So yeah. So right now, it's pretty cool. It's cool up there.
Mm-hmm.
We keep it friendly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good energy. I mean, I sometimes I'm sitting up there and I almost become a fan, of any of the candidates because
Yeah.
it sounds great. It
Yeah.
sounds great. It's great. Points. But then I have to remember that this is politics,
Mm-hmm.
right? We heard election after election.
Yeah.
And then you start to realize, like, we still having the same talking points. Like,
Yeah.
we have no resolution on any of those
Mm-hmm.
stances because it's continuing to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a failure somewhere.
Outside of yourself, and I don't want you to say this, obviously, I would not ask you to say this publicly. Do not. Of course not. I'm just curious, internally, outside of yourself, when you're listening to the other candidates, is there another candidate that you feel like, if you're not elected, that you feel like is the best candidate? Second best candidate.
Right. So that's
Or I'm gonna give you up. Or there are some that feels that I have talked to a lot of people in public office that hold state roles. Some people don't feel like any of the candidates are really qualified.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I was thinking, coming into this, I really didn't really think I'll be smoked, but I expected that I'd be smoked. I do hear, like, even with the previous question you asked, like, what do I hear, when I'm canvassing? And I'm still connecting with community members, and they saying, like, it's hard because, everybody's good from their perspective, but it also says that everybody's on the same level, like, as in regards to what's being output.
Yeah.
And with me, being one of the newcomers into politics, how am I on the same level? And that should tell you something. If I'm coming into this and I haven't held a political seat, but I've done work. I've been a liaison between community and government, and one of the issues being the meals tax, where I helped a restaurant, resolve their issue with the meals tax, and that's why we hear about that in the news, because that's the type of work that I do. But I'm not a part of the establishment.
Got it.
So to hear that within itself should make you think, like, wow, shouldn't we give this innovative, this energetic person an opportunity?
Yeah.
If he coming out the gate and he's right here neck and neck with these politicians, shouldn't we give him an opportunity? That's my thought.
Well, I mean,
so
I would say that's part of the benefit, though, of you staying in this campaign. That kind of is part of why I think part of the benefit of you staying in this campaign is that regardless of the outcome, it's been you've introduced yourself to the city, and the city's been introduced to you. And leads to my next question is, if you do not win, will you be back, or will you continue to pursue other political seats?
So, man,
are you a politician at this point?
I know, right? Yeah, right. Because I guess the debut has already, occurred.
You
right?
debuted for sure.
Oh man, I'm a dedicated, person, to commitment to community, So I really,
You're
see
35
myself.
years old. You're a young man. You got a lot of opportunity ahead of you.
Right. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur also, though. I set aside business and I set aside my career as well. I really want to give the people opportunity to have a seat at the table because it hadn't been there. When we look at, the past 4, 8, and 12 years, we're not better off today. But to answer your question, I can't say. I mean, I've sacrificed a lot. Not having a family. And not committing. Going into a relationship. I am.
Hold up. We'll get back on that one too. We'll end with that one because there may be some people in the DM want to know after this is over what's up with Mr. Neblett, but we'll start with that. We'll start with that. you said something, and something you said, I want to kind of touch that because I've asked all the candidates this. So I'm gonna push back on this a little bit. You're saying that for 812, you don't think that we're a better city today than we were 8 years ago or 12 years ago?
Now, when I'm looking at the climate, we are when it comes to our fiscal stance. We came from 250 million revenue to up to nearly $3 billion.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
grandstanding.
Yeah.
Right. I'm looking at from the aspect of what the candidates that are running against me in this race, when they speak on things, it's kind of like, well, what happened to the housing crisis? Some people say they was a part of the affordable housing, policy. But when we look at it, it's not affordable. So when they stand up there and talk about, this is what I do to make it affordable, we had an opportunity to do that. When we're looking at the homicide rates with gun violence, it's coming from 37, 35, from 12 years ago on up to over 75, fatal, gun violence cases, and over 250 non-fatal violence cases. It has gotten worse. The infrastructure issues, sidewalks, lighting, that has always been the issue. I'm 35. I've seen it. What has changed, and I've seen what hadn't. It's great to we have some improvements in regards to our transit. Being that we were the number one city to have the trolley, it wasn't San Diego. So,
So we was the first city?
it was the first. We had the trolley. We had the trolley, back in the day. And not only that, we were a city who was the thrivingest city on the East Coast at one point. It's like, how do we get to a point where Austin, Raleigh, Charlotte, how do we get to a point where they blew past us?
Well, I talked to Mayor Stoney a couple weeks ago about some of this stuff, and I'm a believer that Richmond just wants to be Richmond. I'm a believer that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a believer that Richmond has looked at some of these larger cities as models, maybe of areas where it can grow.
Right.
But and they've tried to adopt some of those things, but when things don't get adopted, when things get pushed back, when there's resistance amongst citizens from the city in voting or agreeing to these big changes that the city's putting out, these visions they're putting out there, why is that happening? I've come to say because at the end of the day, Richmond just wants to be Richmond. And I don't think Richmond wants to be anything more than what Richmond wants to be. Doesn't mean that can't or will not change, because we have seen change. We've just seen it at a pace that's different than maybe some of those other cities that you've mentioned. That's kind of my take on it.
Well, and absolutely though. I love Richmond. I embrace what we have, and then we do need to really look at what we have and not what we don't have.
Exactly.
We need to make it better. But the thing is, we have to realize, I think some people forget about checks and balances when it comes to government, right? So, though we have the mayor's office, we still have city council. So some things are not going to go back or be passed if city council doesn't approve the budget. So there's levels to this, and with those levels, we have to remember that it's interconnected. If one side doesn't want it and the other does, it's just not going to happen. So it's just not based on one part of the government, if that makes sense.
If you was elected mayor, what would be the hypothetically, if you're elected mayor, what do you think your first 30 days would look like?
So my first 30 days, would look like, connecting with, the members in City Hall, connecting with the personnel, also, gearing up for ensuring that we have performance audits and, fiscal audits so that we'll be able to uncover where the issue has always been. People always talk about revenue, but and I'm a businessman. The point of business is to maximize profit, right? And the point for a city is for us to maximize in revenue. The thing is, though, if we have holes in the cup and if we don't plug those holes, we truly don't have revenue. That's going to be promising for a successful, thriving city. So I want to make sure we plug the holes, in the city of Richmond as well. But then also we need to look at the affordable housing crisis. We need to look at the policies, and we need to reevaluate where we are able to implement, support for the citizens. That's the pretty much the first 30 days is get acclimated with everyone in each division and department. I want to make sure we have a united Richmond, and that's going to call for us having a cabinet. We want to form a communication system and make sure that the people have a seat at the table. The people need to have access. We need to hear the people. I need to make sure that I'm there in all 9 districts with city council members or not, but I have to be accountable. Accountability measures have to be set and start with the mayor's office, and then everything else will follow because it's intertwined.
A question I'm hearing that's been rather common at the forums is, if you're elected, would you keep the CAO, Lincoln?
Yes,
is
sir.
Lincoln the CAO or is it the
Yes, sir.
CFO?
He's CAO.
Would you keep? So, like, what's your take on like continuity, stability, and keeping things that are working, or is that a role that you feel like would need to be changed?
I don't feel like day one, man, that we need to have a vacancy, for that position. We need to have an exchange, in regards to passing that role on to another individual. Because they've already have some things in the works that they're working on. And the thing is, like I mentioned at the forum before, we need to look at what we have that's here in the city, within our state. I know I hear a lot of people that they automatically say they want to have a national search for a CAO. And I think that's a part of the problem. We always look outside and not look within to see how we're able to make it work. Because we have talented people, smart people that's in the city, and overall in the state of Virginia.
One of the things Stoney said to me that stood out in our last interview is that Lincoln's been in that role for about 4 years. And when you look at Henrico and Chesterfield, there's no cap to how long that person, they've actually showed stability, continuity in having individuals. I think Chesterfield's chief administrative officer may have been there for 8 years. Henrico's may have been there for 12 years. And if I'm wrong, it's a flip. But it's like, but Richmond there's been a lot of change in that. And when I listen to that, I tend to agree with that. I think that continuity and stability is important. I think that, I just think that if you clean house, like, what's the transition? And he mentioned, and like, you have the benefit of having a conversation after the mayor. See, I talked to the other candidates. He came right in the middle.
Okay.
So some of the candidates I talked to, I didn't have a chance to kind of hear his perspective on the current situation. I met with him last week, and now some of those things kind of linger into what my thoughts are of these questions for you. Because he mentioned that all of the candidates had a chance to come in and listen to him and his team kind of do a briefing of how things are going in City Hall. And it was his take that was kind of probably eye-opening for the candidates to kind of see some of the things that they're doing, they're working in preparation for this transition. Was that eye-opening for you? Like, what was that experience like when you went in and listened to his team talk about what they're doing and how they would be preparing for the next mayor to come in and kind of take the reign?
So it wasn't really eye-opening to me, but it was appreciated. Right, I definitely appreciate it, but with hearing the plans and seeing the comps and numbers, it makes sense. I mean, my platform has been financial accountability, public safety, and education. So with that, I've already had a plan for the finance. So hearing, the plans going forward is it almost mirrors what I'm looking to take the city and improvement. Improvement from ensuring that our workers are paid a good comparable wage. With improving to ensure that we are able to formulate a solid budget that's going to work for the next few years to come. And then also I really like how they did it. It was pretty much impartial. Then they also provided us post notes. In regards to it, I mean, it's a great plan.
It's not ever happened before, from what I understand, because other administrations in the past have not had it incorporated in their budget.
Right.
Which to me is crazy that this is new, because it seems like it's the way it should be. I just can't imagine. I mean, if I work for you and I'm coming in a job, I probably gave at least a 2-week notice before. There's going to be there's going to be an onboarding. So there's a pre-employment phase I'm going to have to go through to get acclimated to the job that you're hiring me for. Like most of the time, when you just throw people in the fire and throw people to the wolves, they either burn or get eat up, right?
Right.
And I just think it's crazy to take any type of role, chief role of the city, overseeing a nearly $3 billion budget, and just basically say, okay, it's your time. Time to go. What's your take? On the current? Two questions here. You're big on finances. You're a finance person. There's been a lot of recent public conversations from the mayor's office. There's been in him speaking about the financial accountability. We've heard him talk about the accountability. We've heard him kind of provide some explanations to some of the feedback, some of the things we've heard in the media. We've heard people lose their jobs or walk out. There's been people been terminated. There's been issues about money, bottom line.
Yeah.
How do you feel that the city currently right now is assuming financial responsibility for their actions, or do you feel like that's just press?
So, even with having a meeting.
And you've also been involved in helping with the mills tax thing, which
Yes.
was another financial piece.
And real estate as well. I've been helping with that as well, with the real estate tax. So the thing is, even with looking at and meeting with the CAO and his team, I think that shows a level of accountability. That shows a level of innovation, right? Because it hadn't been done before. I mean, I really like that. When it comes to the press, we're looking at the changes that have occurred when people have been fired, and there's audits now underway, and I think that there is opportunity for us to take the baton and build up off of that. I mean, coming from me with already understanding what the issues were and seeing it unfold now is almost expected. It's almost expected, but it's appreciated that where I came into this election, everything is already unfolding and falling into place. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
If that makes sense. So,
I mean, to me, that sounds like a sense of hope that you feel like things are moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned before, I mean, we came from $250 million revenue stream to $3 billion. I mean, we can't overlook that. We can't overlook that. And and of course, we need to clean up house. I mean, we have to do it. I mean, if we don't, we're gonna sink the ship. But at the same time, there's a point where we need to have new ways of bringing revenue in.
Yeah.
We need to have control measures to ensure that no one's able to steal, from the city. I mean, though it's like 3,000 employees in the city hall, I mean, it's still a lot of discussions that happen that one person doesn't hear. There's a lot of movement and action, that happens that one person doesn't see. So we kind of got to keep that in mind. I mean, if I go in a room next door and I write on the wall, you don't know what I'm writing.
Yeah.
So the reality is things are going to happen. It's just how are we going to respond and how are we going to fix the problem, right? So people do things differently. So of course you could take a different route into getting to that destination or resolution. But I think at this stage, at this point, it's going to be important that whoever goes into the seat, upcoming in this 2025 fiscal is going to actually follow through with what has already now seemed to be initiated, right?
Yeah. I see you got your material out here. You guys can probably expect one of these to be in your mailbox, or on your door. And like I said, brother, we proud of the fact that I said, like I said in the beginning, you persevering, you're pushing through. I'm more interested to learn about the community organizer piece. So you're a serial entrepreneur. So talk to me a little bit about what you do, because I'm assuming you're completely self-employed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Talk to me a little bit about what you do, because I mean, you're in the human service world. I'm in the human service world, and I need to know. We got to know what people do in order to to best serve the community. So help me understand like the resources that you provide.
All right, so I have a security firm. I also have hospitality, but roadside assistance, consulting as well. Not limited to those though.
When you say consulting, what type of consulting?
So it's general consulting. You know, I've helped nonprofits to help businesses. As you heard about the meals tax, I've helped you know, residents. You know, so it's really pretty much I piece the puzzle pieces together. You know, ultimately, I'm a problem solver. So it doesn't matter what's being thrown at me or what they're going through, and we can resolve it. And like I told you previously in this interview, like I believe, you know, starting 15 years ago, that all it takes sometimes is for someone to receive a little help. You know, I've been displaced, you know, before. I mean, I was in social services, or I was awarded a state, and I hadn't had that support set aside from people who I've met along the way, right? Where someone paid for my admission fees for college. You know, if that wasn't done, I wouldn't have probably went to college, right? So also, you know, with the community work, you know, I help organizations like Brothers Concerned for Gilpin, Archangels, the Rock Project. So whether it's fiscally or whether it's innovation, I'm a problem solver ultimately.
Yeah. I'd love to further converse with you about those things. I work in the community as well, so just interested to learn about your resources so I can help do my part in spreading the word to individuals that may have some compatible needs.
Thank you. And I had group home also.
You have a group home?
I have had it. I had something happened during the pandemic. I had to take in on a family member who had cancer, so I had to shut down. No one was looking to work during the pandemic.
No, nobody's looking to work.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but I had to make a hard decision. You know? So I had to make sure I bring that family member in and help them. You know,
I'm a basketball junkie.
Okay.
Arguably one of the best basketball players you've ever had a conversation with, or I used to be anyway, arguably. Joking.
Oh, yeah.
I say that with humor and fun, but no, genuinely though, a big basketball guy. And Ray Neblett's name is like Richmond famous on basketball. What's your relationship there?
That's my cousin.
That's your cousin?
Yes, sir.
Have you had any involvement with the inner city basketball league?
Yes, sir.
God, did you come through that?
Yes, sir. It's been 16 years. I've been excited. My cousin has been persistent with it. Even during college, I wanted to make sure I connect with them and help with plans. And he gave me the opportunity to also, provide my services, like for my businesses to help, because I'm in the mental health service as well. But the thing is, with the security firm, I'm able to make sure that the flow of the camps go without having any friction. I'll say that. So.
Yeah, had to ask that question because I just assumed naturally that y'all had to be related.
ICB.
Yep.
Yes,
so we're going to make sure we shout out Ray Neblett. You are Union Night. Proudly, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes.
I take some issue with Union though, man.
Man, talk to me. We keep it real, like you say. You keep it real.
we
on
are.
The show.
We are. We for the culture from the culture, man.
Yes, sir.
And when we talking amongst culture, we got to talk about it.
And that's what we should do.
I take some issue with Union, man. I don't know where the root of the issue is. I just hear. I got some friends that work over there. And again, this is all what I hear. I don't know anything, but I hear that that kids over there suffering in the summer with no air conditioning.
Hey, listen.
And if you would have told me that in the late 90s, early, I would have understood because maybe, just what it was. I don't know if I had air conditioning when I was in college. But in 2024? What's going on over there, man?
Yeah, so if any of you attended the forum at the chapel, that's self-evident. It was hot in that was the first forum, man. I was holding on with dear life, because the bright lights were shining down.
Did you say you was holding on for dear life?
Yes, sir. I mean, hey, look, I love you. I'm a graduate. That's my stomach ground. The thing is, though, even in the library, there was a point in time when the AC was out as well. So I mean, that's
is it money? Is it funding?
Hey, without me being able to look at the books,
Yeah.
I can't really say.
Good answer. Good answer. I don't know, man. I think that sometimes because of the proximity, the distance between Virginia State and Virginia Union, they can get easily compared, but they're not really comparable in a lot of ways. I mean, Virginia State is being rated as like one of the top schools in a lot of different categories. I don't know where Union falls. I'm just wanting better.
Well,
I want better.
we
want better.
That's just like when we look at the city. See, when you ask, like, has the city gotten better? Mm-hmm. Right? There's some aspects that has, but when it's issues that continue to be, the focal point that we see on a daily basis that hadn't improved. Mm-hmm. But then when we look at Union, we looking at, man, those students got Apple devices. I was like, man, they had it sweet, right? Mm-hmm. They get Apple devices, so they'd be able to utilize that for their coursework, But then we talk about the heat.
Yeah.
We talk about
the football field.
Now,
I've been wanting to know. I don't understand. I'm like, come on, John Martin. Like high schools be looking better sometimes.
Well, they
got AstroTurf now, though.
They have an improvement in the stadium. Shout out to Willie Lanier. Willie Lanier Senior.
I think I did recently hear that there was
who
some
donated to that, and we family ties as well. Mm-hmm. So shout out to Big Willie. Honey Bear.
Don't tell me you can the Bob Lanier.
Hey, listen. The first time I shot a Winston rifle was at a family reunion, and I think they used a Clorox bottle. We were out in the country, so it was Willie Lanier Senior. I remember, at one point in time when I was a child, I was a football. I played football. I was a beast.
You played football union?
I played. Well, I ended up coaching.
Okay.
When I first attended
you
union,
was a coach?
Yes. When when Ray Lewis' son was there. When I first came to union, they was like, "Man, come on, play football." It was a tough decision I had to make. I told them, I said, "Hey, look, I'm here for my education." Because I had opportunity for scholarships, and being that I came through, union in an aspect for academia, I just say, you know what, I'm just here for my education.
Where'd you graduate high school at?
So I ended up graduating from Hermitage. Mm-hmm. So I attended Highland Springs for 1 year and Hermitage for 2. Mm-hmm. So with me, being awarded a state, they ended up moving me out for a short period of time. So my 3 years of high school, I had it at Hermitage and Highland Springs.
Make sure I understand. When you say, like, was you in foster care?
Yes, sir.
Did you move around a lot through foster care, or are there people that you considered your foster care parents? Like, is there any strong root or connection through that?
So, it's very interesting. So I had an early onset years of being in foster care, very, very young, bad experience, right? Bad, horrible experience. The way I can compare, my life, and I thought I was the one that went through it alone, was Antoine Fisher, right? That's the closest thing that I can describe to you concisely to give you an idea. But, so at a certain age, I ended up just deciding to stay in group homes. I had opportunities to go into actual foster care. Mm-hmm. I've met Ann Halden and Tim Kaine while I was there. We had a symposium at the Linwood Halden. And I met them and took a picture with them, and I said, I thanked them for them making the improvements and funding for what we needed, in the system. And I told them, I said, hey, look, one day I'm going to help people just like you. So when I seen them as an adult, it was like, man, that was just so real. And I told them, I said, hey, look, I'm here. And I said, I started to say I'm Maurice Neblett, and Tim Kaine said, I know who you are. And I was like, tears to my eyes,
Wow.
For what Tim Kaine and Ann Halton has done, their life commitment to helping and serving. And Tim Kaine's from Richmond. He's been here. He's worked his way on up. But I was in foster care, and I've seen the challenges, and experienced the challenges that my peers faced. A lot of them, became, drug addicts. They've been incarcerated and nearly trafficked. Some of them actually trafficked. They had to help some individuals to get back on this side. They don't go to California on the basis of love that you think you found love, and next thing you know, she was told that she had to work or she had to find her way back. So I had to try to make sure I help her get her way back. But just touching on that to understand, individuals transitioning from the system, foster care or the water state into society is very challenging, let alone even now, the children that are living in homes transition from being in homes going to live on their own. You know, with this affordable housing, I call it unaffordable housing crisis. You know, it is paramount that we address it. You know, and I want to address it with, you know, affordable home ownership as well as rental property as well. So
hearing that, man, I hope you get that. Hearing that with your personal experience, I hope you just do another group home.
Yes, sir.
That's
I
needed.
still have my policies.
That's needed.
Yeah, I still have my policies. So I mean, I just
adolescence. I'm assuming it was.
Yeah, so I had started initially with individuals with disabilities. I do want to go into therapeutic with adolescents, transitional housing. I do want to do that, you know, as well. So,
yeah, you and I could have a lot of conversation that would be. I got to go to a group home when I leave here.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so we'll talk more about it. But
thank you for your commitment.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. As we wrap to close, we're gonna do a couple of rapid fire questions just to kind of get an idea. You know, the audience heard you mention that you were single. I'm assuming that you're gonna stay single until after you get through this, because I'm sure that you know, young man like yourself in your prime out here, man, it's got to be hard to dodge and duck all the. Whatever, you know, what's going on.
Yes, sir. So, you know, I'm married. You know, the thing,
you are married?
Yeah, I know I'm unmarried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not married. You know, the thing is, I tell myself, I say I want to move expeditiously though. You know, like after this, because I've held off for so long.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, it wasn't easy. You know, relationships. You know, and it you know, kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Because of that. You know, and but my focus has always been on the people.
But there's some candidates out there.
Well, I mean, you know, hey, look, all I'm saying is, whoever it is, they need to be ready. You know,
yeah,
I'm just saying.
That's good, man. Listen, well, he'll see you at the polls, okay?
Yes, yeah. Yes,
sir. You a sports guy? You a football guy? What's your team?
Well, so with me, I studied football. I played hard. So, you know, the teams that I like, the characteristics.
You're a Redskin fan.
Well,
Commander, excuse me.
Well, not really.
He's back. Look at him.
One of my team players, man, he played for them at a point in time. He moved on, but I know Moses, when Moses Morgan had played for Commanders. I mean, it was kind of like, okay, I see it. You know, I really wasn't set on a team any longer because my training style coming up was very rigorous. I mean, I was like 13 years old, 175 pounds with less than 5% body fat. So, I mean, and now as an adult, when people I used to always say, yeah, they used to say you would know your strength and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm a kid. I don't know why. You know, what do they mean? You know, but I see now. You know, so I looked at all teams, you know, from Ray Lewis to Marshall Faulk. So, you know, we went from Baltimore, we went to St. Louis, you know, we went to New England with certain aspects because I played, you know, a few different positions.
Gotcha.
You know, so I don't have a set team. You know, I've really, you know, committed myself to the work, to the community. So I'm not able to really like sit there to look at the game sometimes. But if I hear about it, I follow up with it. A few people I know, like Anthony Harris, you know, when he played for the Eagles, you know. I mean, there's a few other people. A lot of people I played with actually have made it to the pros.
That's good. That's good.
And my coach Coach Taylor, you know, shout out to him, man. He's one of the many coaches that I've had. Coach Allen Anthony at Hotchkiss, Ben at Reed. It's so many people that I can name, but you know, they look at it and they know that I was a great athlete. But they said, man, Maurice, this is the biggest thing ever. They said none of any of the players that went to the NFL can match what you are doing because we know where you come from. We know what your purpose is. And they commend me on it. And I was kind of like, what? I said, the pros? I said, man, listen, they're going to the pros though, you know?
Yeah, but what you're doing right now is, it's obviously serving a bigger cause, you know, serving a bigger cause. If you had somebody visiting from out of town that you hadn't saw in a long time, they come to check you out in Richmond, where would you take them to eat?
Oh wow, gosh, why would you do that? It's so many
places. You can only take them at one place, and it's 5:30 p.m.
Oh man. You know, I always shout out Philly Vegan, man. I really like Philly Vegan. It's innovative. You know, it tastes good. It's a healthy option in which we need those also. It'll be Philly Vegan.
All right, Philly Vegan. We had Philly Vegan on 804 The Culture
Okay.
platform. Sam, right?
What did you? Oh yes, Sam,
We talked
yes,
about
yes.
we talked about the meals tag. We talked about a lot of things. If
Okay.
you haven't checked that episode out, go check that out.
Yes, sir.
We had him on the 804 The Culture platform. You can go to Culture Collective on YouTube and see that interview right now.
Okay, yes, sir. I'll check it out for sure.
Two more questions. When you're in the car driving, what do you listen to on the radio?
Nothing.
You listen.
If
driving in silence.
Just driving silence. If anything, I listen to like 92.5, or like classical, but daily basis, I listen to nothing.
Gotcha.
Reason being, it's so much that I do that I have to kind of like remember, like, dang, I do that, or I have this certification, I have this license.
Yeah.
I'm always, want to make sure I have a sound mind. I'm thinking, because it's people that rely on me, and it's problems that I have to help resolve. And it's a lot of families that I assist, and veterans as well. So I don't listen to anything.
Yep. These clients, they out of pocket pay.
Yeah, this is. Hold on,
When people pay you for these services, are they paying out of pocket?
So, with what I do is it's a commitment. I give it away for free, and I know some people always tell me, Maurice, you can't keep doing that stuff for free, right? Some things I can go through and bill, through Medicaid if I was to do it through those mental health services and stuff like that. But when me helping individuals on a day-to-day basis, when me helping the companies, when me helping the nonprofits, I invest.
Are you a 501c3?
I'm not.
No?
So I have a DBA, Project Motion, which I really don't promote, but I utilize that through the business as charity with my philanthropy work. So when I help these nonprofits and businesses, I haven't charged them.
Got you.
Though I could now, because everything it's been effective.
Well, you better listen right now while you're on this stage and you got this platform. And I'm not talking about the Randy Wilson podcast. I'm talking about the mayor candidacy of Richmond. People need to know, like, there's an opportunity in order for you to further serve the community at large, like you're doing. Cash App is open.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Visit www.mauriceneblett.com. We accept funding, right?
Yeah.
But we got to share the same vision, you know, because I don't want to take away from the people.
Yeah.
With me, it's an opportunity to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
People have been long silenced.
Yeah.
People, and families having to make impossible decisions. They feel penniless and powerless, and I've mentioned that to city council as well in regards to this 4-cent real estate drop in the $1.20. But the thing is, like, I understand. Like, I think it's my passion and level of commitment that know that people just need a little help. Now, granted, sometimes things can be overboard.
Oh yeah,
but
I know. Particularly of us, man. You give us the inch, we take a mile quick.
Right.
Last question, and we'll close. Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Wow.
Young Maurice. I mean, you're already a young man, but I'm talking about you go back 20 years ago. You coming up. Was it Beyonce? Was it, who was it? Childhood celebrity crush. Who did you have pinned up in the locker?
Man, it's crazy. Hold on.
Let me tell you, Maurice was such a focused young man that would just focus on football.
Yes.
He wasn't worried about you. He wasn't even looking at that.
Listen,
These are why this is why you're in the world you're in. That's why you're not distracted.
Right. Yeah, listen, because I learned early on, that, conditioning your mind and looking at videos, people, they can't separate entertainment from reality.
Yeah.
So I really never really got mixed into that. Fortunately, my aunt, she kind of was like on it, and I could have watched it, but she was trying to suggest that I didn't. And I started seeing how my peers behaved and why their motivations, right?
That's kind of how I am, or how I was, and still am. Like my son's into Marvel and stuff like that. I can't tell you the difference between DC and Marvel. I don't know. Like, I don't know the difference. I don't know which is which, because I don't get into make believe.
Got you.
Like, if it ain't real, I don't resonate with it.
I got you with DC, Batman, Marvel, Superman.
I don't know the difference. Listen, if Spider-Man walked in here right now, and because my son was hitting me with this the other day, and there's another character that's like, it's not. He has a movie out right now. It was just out recently. They went.
Was it a Joker?
No, it ain't a Joker.
Okay.
It's a movie. He's fully covered. It ain't Spider-Man, but he's
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Okay.
I call Deadpool Spider-Man. He looked at me like I was Eddie. I was like, I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. with
Yeah,
it.
I got
know.
you.
So
I
but I don't
got
get
you.
caught up in the make believe because if it ain't believable, I don't pay attention to it.
Right.
But Maurice, I think while I'll use that and spinning that to say that, hey man, one of the things I'll say that I think that you've done in this episode that's probably helped our listeners is help them understand that you are a believable person, you know? And I think that if people want to, that's the type, a believable person is a person that people probably choose to vote for. Wow. So I wish you success in the rest of your 50-some days. And thank you for being a guest on the Randy Wilson podcast and any closing comments that you have for the people.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Wilson. I appreciate it. It's an honor. I look forward to coming back.
Yeah.
As mayor.
All right.
Of the city of Richmond.
Then we're really gonna ask the question.
Yes, sir. I mean, hey, look, I want to work proactively, on the forefront, and that, that go on the back end. So a transparency system I have, I want to involve our podcasts. I want to involve our news stations, our public networks, so that we could be transparent and accountable as a city, as a government. So what I do want to say is, hey, the Richmond Community Hospital, 1209 Overbrook Road.
Yep.
We need more, support, with that. I know I spearheaded and I submitted a press release in February where I called out a lot of candidates, and Addison is one that I put on the top of the list because I'm aware of what he did in West Hampton, elementary school with preservation of that. So the thing is, I believe that we need that support from the community because that was one of the black hospitals in the city of Richmond.
Yeah.
That's major history there. So many families have been born
I'm very
there.
familiar with it.
Yeah. So, the thing is, I try to expound and show my leadership as well. I know the moving parts and I know what parts will work and what parts to help. So I know the strengths, in people. And I believe that hopefully, coming up, when this election is over, we'll be able to resolve that in zoning. And I really take that seriously about history. History is important to me. I ain't never seen a baby picture of myself, right? So that aspect, just for that, I understand how important history is. Like the closest way I could look at a baby picture from one of my siblings' grandmothers was looking at my siblings' baby picture because they mistaken that I was that sibling when my mother had me. They thought my mother took her grandson.
Wow.
So and I have a ton of siblings. So I'm it's like 17 and up.
Wow.
So I'm one of probably 20 plus, in the city of Richmond.
Wow.
But I do ask everyone to take in consideration that, we need a new way forward.
Yeah.
We need innovation. We need someone who is of the people, from the people, for the people. I'm not Johnny come lately. We need somebody that's going to be true. And I ask for your vote, early voting, and November 5th as well.
Gotcha. You heard it there. You heard it here first, second, third, and fourth. It's Randy Wilson with the Randy Wilson Podcast, Virginia's podcast for the culture. You can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are played. Go over to randywilsonpodcast.com. Again, that's randywilsonpodcast.com. Give us a follow. Give us a like. Go subscribe. And we out.